In this video, I'm going to show you guys a cool little plugin from Hornet that will help you automatically gain stage. So this thing is a big time saver plugin. I love it. It's reasonably priced. It works for a variety of platforms. So all in all, I recommend it. So here's how you use it. First of all, obviously go to your effects. And I already have horn typed in, so I can just double click on this. So here's my first instance, and the controls are really simple. First of all, we have our automatic button. So you click that to enable it. And what I do is I let it reset to 0 before I hit play, but I'll get to that in a second. So first of all, you have your VU offset down here. Now that controls the actual meter from my understanding. What you want to do is first change your reference. I put mine on -20, sometimes -22 if there are a lot of tracks, like in this mix. -18 will work fine if you have a small amount of tracks, but -18 as the default is fine even if you do have a lot of tracks. But I would recommend -22 because it's a little bit lower, and like I said, if you have about 16 tracks, and -20 works pretty well. If you have like a handful of tracks, like let's say 5 or 6 tracks, then -18 is great. But the other important setting is your peak. And right now that's -6. I think that's a little bit too high. So I'm going to do mine at -10. And then I'm also going to enable the group, put this on group 1. And automatically the gain and meter buttons are highlighted. Okay, so that's step 1 through 5 or whatever. The next step is, depending on your DAW, you want to copy this plugin to all your different tracks. Actually, let me double check on something. Okay, so you got to make sure it's on, the group is on, otherwise this is not going to work. Okay, so I think I just hold Alt, or I might not even do that, but I'll just try. All right, so yeah, I can just copy that and do it on every single track. Now, I could also do a mix template so that this is automatically enabled or loaded up anytime a new track is made. This plugin is great for recording as well. If your DAW's meter doesn't work well, or if, let's say, you want to set the 0 level on the meter to something different, something that correlates to your analog to digital converter's reference level. A lot of converters work best around -16. You can also set yours to be around -20. You need to read your manual to get that information. Sometimes that information is not readily available, so contacting the manufacturer of your analog to digital converter or your audio interface is the only way to get that information. All right, so how many tracks was that? 48 tracks. Now, like I said, this plugin is a time saver, and here's why. Normally, let's just go through this mix, all right? I'm going to minimize this window here back to where it was. There we go. All right, so look at the waveforms. You could obviously see it on the first 2 tracks, but as I scroll down, look how big these waveforms are. Oh my God, that is a nightmare to go through and had to trim every single one of these tracks down manually, right? Especially these tracks that have like 2 things on them. That's so annoying. Had to go through and make sure they're at a good level. And some of these tracks even need to be brought up in level. And that's what this plugin does. It not only reduces the volume, it brings it up as well so that you're not having to do this manually. So here's how it works. I'm going to load up 2 of these so you can see what happens when I do it at the same time. Actually, I'm going to do the 3rd track for my second instance. Okay. Oh. I did it wrong. Hold on. Why is that? Oh, it was hidden behind that. Okay. So here's track 3. And I don't have to have any of these on. I could just have one soloed or really mute everything. It doesn't matter. So watch what happens when I hit the auto button. and I'll hit it again. Okay, now that's happening against all these other tracks. I'll show you another one. I'll show you one down the line here just to show you what I mean. So here is track 17 on the bottom here. I got to bring it up. All right, so watch again. All three of these plugins when I hit the auto button. All right, cool. So here's what's going to happen. I'm going to play this all the way through the entire song and watch what happens to mainly this knob right here. I'll also change the reference, the max peak, because not only does this do your average level for the reference, it also does a maximum peak, which is a great feature. I used to have the Mark II version of this plugin, and it didn't have this grouping feature. It also didn't have the max peak feature. These two features alone, the grouping and the max peak, it was worth the upgrade. You know, and this plugin's already cheap. It cost me like, I think it was $5 the first time, and then it was $3 for the upgrade, so less than $10. I mean, this is a plugin that I'm going to use on every single mix, even if I track at proper levels, which they didn't do here, or they processed it and just said, all right, I'm going to leave it at the max, which is ridiculous. Either way, you had to trim your gain levels. You had to gain stage at some point. Even if you record it at really good levels, you may not have done it perfectly, and your max peak may have been higher than you wanted it to. Okay, anyway, let me change this so I can just show you. Watch on all the other plugins when I move this to -6. And now I'll move it back to -10. Okay, so notice that the knob changes. I don't know if that makes a difference when I hit play, but I just wait till it resets back to 0, and then I do the following. Really, really simple. I'm going to fast forward this after I start playing, but so you set up everything. I'll even go to the very beginning just in case there's something out there. But I'm going to hit play and watch as this gray knob changes on all the plugins. Well, not immediately because track 1 doesn't start until here, but you'll see what happens. Ready? And... Okay, so the song is over, and as you just saw, as soon as I hit stop or it automatically stopped, the auto went away, and we can just close these plugins and not have to worry about them for the rest of the mix. That serves as your trim plugin. All right, now I'm going to play this mix briefly because I do not own the copyrights to the song, but I'll just play a few seconds of this. In the middle somewhere, I'm going to put a brick wall limiter on just in case, because you never know. And I'm going to see how well this worked. Now, my settings may be a little bit extreme, but with 45 tracks, well, we'll see. All right, so here's about the middle of the song, I guess. Okay, so as you can see, it didn't really peak all the way, which is great, and it's a good starting point. Again, you may want to just leave it at the defaults. The defaults really are fine. -6 as a max peak is pretty good. I'm a little bit more conservative when it comes to audio levels, though, so I like to have it around -10 for the maximum, but you can get away with -6 if you don't have so many tracks. And really, it's not depending on tracks. It's more so, the reason I want to do this, besides I need to trim the levels of the tracks anyway, is that if you have analog modeled plugins, they need to be around -18 decibels full scale, or actually it's around -18 RMS, not full scale. But either way, the average is what it needs to be, because that correlates to real world analog gear, and the plugins are modeled off that to operate at their best at those levels. So if you're feeding it like, the original level of this track is super high, the plugin may or may not react properly. If it's modeled correctly, it's going to distort. That's not a good thing. So that's my advice. Get this plugin. It's cheap. It's practical. You'll use it on pretty much every mix, and it works really well. It barely eats up any CPU, so even though it's going to be on all your tracks, it's really not going to make that much of a difference processing-wise, because it just eats up so little EQ or CPU. Let's see it again on this track, just to show you how much CPU it's using. It's not even registering. That's how little it's using. It's less than 0.1% CPU usage. I mean, it's only a game plugin after all, and after it has the automatic thing, and after that's over with, it's just a trimmer at that point. And if you need to make adjustments, let's say a track isn't as loud or as quiet as you really want it to, just take it off of the group. Oops, I don't like that it went back to automatic, but all right, so don't take it off the group. At that point, you can remove the gain from the group. Ah, man, that's messing up on me now. All right, well, keep the number in mind of this right here. I didn't know it was going to go back to automatic, because normally I just play it through and then it's off and that's it, and I don't have to worry about it again, because I just let it do its thing. And if I really need to bring the volume up, I can do it in another plugin. Usually the issue is that something is too loud or not loud enough, and this gets you in a much better ballpark, in a much better way, much faster way than manually going through 48 tracks and doing it by hand. All right, anyway, I think I've said enough about this plugin. Definitely check it out. If you don't like it, you got 15 days to get a refund. Yeah. Also, no dongles required, no serial number, so there's no excuse not to buy this plugin. It's so cheap. It doesn't have any copyright protection, or copy protection really, which is amazing for a modern plugin, and Hornet deserves a lot of credit. They also have other plugins available that are very utilitarian, and that's a good thing, because it means that you're going to use it on a lot of plugins. I'm going to demo their, or try to demo their Vocal Writer plugin eventually, but definitely check this one out, because it has saved me a lot of time when I get other mixes from people who don't know what they're doing. No offense to them, but they didn't watch my practical or proper levels video prior to recording, which, I understand that. I was there as a newbie. I thought I had to fill the meters up too. So when you see the meters filled up, then yeah, anyway, this has been Adam for RealHomeRecording.com.